Hello, this is Rochelle Agatha, and this is a lecture for the math assignment, but I'm also going to give you an overview of math in Excel, especially if you haven't taken math since you were in fifth grade. You'll find helpful too. These are the types of math, for the most part, that you'll do in this class. You'll do addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and we don't do exponentiation, but I'm going to show you what it is anyway. So on your keyboard, these are the signs that complete these. So addition is the plus, the minus, the asterisk, the slash, and the caret. So what you're going to do is you'll see, I just typed some numbers in here so that we could get some totals. The basic sum function is what adds things up. So instead of using your keyboard and saying plus, 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 you're going to use something called a sum function. And a sum function, so when I grade your assignments, I look for things like this. I want to see you sum. I don't want to see you plussing everything. So the way that you produce the sum is that this is a function. So you can open up your functions with your equal sign, and as you type, it kind of helps you out. And you always open it up with a parenthesis, then it tells you what to put in the function. So you're just going to highlight the numbers you want summed and then close your parentheses and then hit enter. And that's how you get a sum. If you want to subtract something, you can do it one of two ways. Make sure that you open any math function with an equal or a plus sign, so that otherwise if you just start typing, it'll think it's text. So if you open it with, I always use the plus. If I say plus and then I use my arrow keys and I say plus the budget minus the actual and I hit enter, that's my formula. You can copy the formulas down by dragging them and dropping them. So notice that my formula is the same in all of them. And then let's say I want a variance. If I want a variance, I can say I want to divide this is my variance, I want a variance percent. I could divide my variance by my budget, because my variance is a percent of budget. So I can copy that down. Notice I did a two-step process here. I can do a one-step process by using parentheses, because parentheses are what defines the order of operations in Excel. So notice here I did it all in one cell. I said plus F minus E divided by, and then I said F5. And we'll talk about the dollar signs in a moment, but for now just let's go ahead and recreate that. So I use my parentheses and I say plus the budget minus the actual, close my parentheses, and divide by the budget. And that shows up as a 0 here. So why does it do that? Because it's not formatted as a percent. So I went ahead and formatted as a percent. Let's go ahead and change something. Let's say that the budget was actually 27. Notice that formulas change when the math changes. And let's say that the actual here was 14. And I can copy this formula down and it does the math for me. Let's say you're working on a problem where you always want the denominator to be fixed to a number. That's when you start using what is called the absolute. Notice the dollar signs on top, in front and behind the letter. If I hit my F4 key on top, I went ahead and I'm editing the cell. If I toggle my F4 key through, notice the dollar sign is changing. So there's no dollar sign, two dollar signs, a dollar sign in back, and a dollar sign in front. Those all absolute that cell in different ways. This absolutes the letter, no absolute. This absolutes both the letter and the number, so the column and the row. This absolutes the row. So this is important. If let's say that I want to compare my actual based on some arbitrary number that was a long time ago. So let's say my budget from a long time ago was 25. And I want to do this same formula, but I want to use some historical budget number. So I would say, okay, I want my historical budget number minus my actual divided by my historical budget number. Notice if I start and copy this down, I have a problem because that F2 moves when I copy. It becomes F3, F4, F5, etc. because I did not absolute that number. So I'm going to absolute it here, and I'm going to absolute it here. Now, when I copy it down, notice the F2 stayed the same, and only the E is moving, which is what I wanted it to do. So let me give some of these some bigger numbers just so that we can see the formulas change. Okay, let's make these a different color just for the sake of doing what I'm doing. There, so now you can see that here they were almost the same, so there was 0% variance. And as the number gets smaller or bigger, depending on what the variance actually is. So the key to this lecture, there's three main points. This is how you do the math: plus, minus, multiply, divide, exponentiation. And we talked about order of operations. You need to put a parenthesis depending on how you want to add or subtract or multiply or divide. And we talked about absolute. If you don't use parentheses, let's do an example of not using parentheses. Let's say that I add a number, subtract the next one, divide by the third one, and multiply by the next one. Whoops. And then let's just stop there. Okay, so without having any parentheses, division happens first, then multiplication. If that's not what I want to happen, I need to put some kind of a parenthesis around it. So let's say what I really wanted was I wanted the plus and minus to happen first, and then I wanted that whole thing to be divided by these two multiplied. So my numbers give me zeros because I have little and big numbers in here. Let's go ahead and do the same thing here. So let's say I want the first minus the second to be divided by the third times the fourth. And that is different than this because of where I placed the parentheses. So the key to parentheses in math is the order of how you want things to happen. So keep that in mind too. Once again, I'll go over it 3 more times. These are my math functions. I can do them in a certain order, which is called order of operations. Hence down here, I place parentheses where I want it. And I can absolute depending on if I want something to stay fixed or not. This was math with this was math without, and this was math with, because I was using a fixed number. Okay, so I'm going to do an overview of the math assignment. Depending on what term you're watching this in, please note that these numbers might be different. This is just an example of how I use math in an accounting equation. Here's my adjusted trial balance. So if you've taken accounting, you can see that there's, here's a trial balance. Everything's in order and it balances. So I use the sum function to get my balance. So what the instructions on this assignment said, to create this exactly as you see it. So in this assignment, I'm telling you, you must create something that looks exactly like this. When I say that, I want you to put it in the same cells and everything. So I say put Accounting 104, the title of the assignment, and your name, and I say put it in cell A3. Then you're going to type this, and you're going to make it look very similar, same colors and everything. I say use Arial 10 point font. How do I do that? I come up here and I make sure that Arial 10 point is what I'm using. I could highlight the whole spreadsheet and make it Arial 10 point if it's not already set that way. Then in B5, I tell you what to type. So here's B5. Then I say merge it. We talked about this in the Excel Basics lecture. Then I say sum these puppies up. So you sum them up using the sum function. I don't want to see you add them one at a time. Then I say name that sheet math 1. Name your file first initial, last name math. That doesn't mean yours is going to say flat F-L-A-S-T math. Yours might say, J. Smith math, whatever your first initial and your last name is. That's our saving convention in this class from the lecture that you already watched. Then I say copy math 1 into a new sheet and call it math 2. So here's math 1, then here's math 2. Then I tell you I want you to do these calculations, and I tell you what to do. I say take the cash cell divided by the sum of the asset cells. Well, that should tell you right there that if I'm taking one number, cash, and dividing it by the sum of all of the assets, and if you haven't taken accounting 101, 201, or any other accounting, you might be a little stuck on this, so I'm going to help you out. All of the asset accounts are from cash on down to other assets. Accumulated depreciation is a contra asset account, so you're going to have to subtract accumulated depreciation from the total of the assets here. I want to see you do this in one formula. I want to see you take the cash and divide it by the sum and figure out what to use in the formula, noting that the accumulated depreciation is a contra asset, so it needs to be subtracted out of that situation. Okay? I tell you what I want in all of these functions. This is math. It's not really accounting. It's not difficult stuff here. When you get to math 2, you're going to have an answer. And I'm going to remember the lecture you're looking at is not exactly what you're going to see because I don't want to just give you the answer. So you're going to have a nice little table and make sure you have the right footers and resave it, and you're going to submit this into Blackboard. Okay, so this is your first real assignment. So take your time, make it look good, and please send me an email before it's due. Remember, I answer my emails within 48 hours. I try to do it sooner than that, but if you start sending me an email the night before something is due, you're not going to get a response from me. So please take the time to start these assignments early. Thank you.